Hi, my name is Lauren Annicelli, and I have participated in Artist Exchange production of A Christmas Carol since 2016, and I directed last year's production in 2019. So I have been privileged to work with some incredible directors over the years at Artist Exchange. Each production has its own special twist and interpretation based on the director's vision. I think one of my favorite aspects of this is how directors have taken liberties with the story, but still held true to the transcendent themes and messages of Dickens' original text. We've seen all different Cratchit families through the years. We have had gender bending casting, which is always my favorite thing to see on stage, watching men and women play different roles, regardless of the original interpretation. And we have had so many fun, hilarious scenes for the infamous Freddy's party scene that will always stay with me as some of my fondest memories on stage. I think my favorite production was actually my first back in 2016. I played the Ghost of Christmas Past for the brilliant director Jessica Chase, and I love this character so much. Was definitely my all-time favorite role because I think the past is really where we begin to see Scrooge's transformation, where the audience gets a glimpse of why Scrooge is the way they are. There is absolutely a certain magic to playing one of the ghosts, and it's just a joy to almost feel magical on stage. And as exuberant and cherubic as Past is, she really rips off the band-aid, so to speak, and the audience gets to experience Scrooge's pain and heartbreak. And I loved being able to portray that contrast through the journey of Scrooge's past. Also in 2016, that was actually the last year that Artist Exchange performed at the Park Theater. Now, I love the intimacy of the black box at Theater 82, but it was really special to just bring the story to life on a large stage for a large audience, and Jessica made the transition from the black box to the park absolutely seamless. It was an incredible experience. Whenever I approach any character, my main focus is to tell that character's story truthfully and honestly. So I try to bring as much empathy to the table as I can to delve into how that character views their relationships, themselves, and their backstory in the confines of the world that we see. I think listening is the most important thing for any actor to do on stage, and to just react and respond as genuinely as possible. Sometimes less is more. Now, when I directed A Christmas Carol in 2019, I wanted to touch upon three key themes: time, charity, and transformation. I also wanted to convey the transcendence of the story. Charles Dickens is one of my favorite authors, and delving into the text, I realized just how poetic and prophetic Dickens was, and that's most likely why the story has been a holiday favorite since it was written. I used some tech elements in order to convey these themes on stage. One of them is actually called a gobo. It's a lighting fixture that can move. So I actually had it hanging right above center stage, and it projected a clock onto the floor, and Scrooge and the ghosts would stand in that clock, and anytime Scrooge would travel through time, whether the past, present, or future, the clock would spin, and we would see the scenes just changing and developing around Scrooge and the ghost. Also, during many scenes, I would have actors come out and just sit in certain areas of the stage to represent individuals in poverty and without homes. I sort of wanted to show that we currently have a housing crisis in this country, and also having those actors just sort of be there in the scene without interacting was able to sort of show how society turns a blind eye, and that individuals who are homeless sort of almost have this invisibility. We don't notice them, but they're there and they're human, and I wanted to portray that on stage as best as I could. I also had women play multiple roles that would typically have been cast as men because I wanted to show the depth of Dickens' characters. So I had my dear friend Rhiannon Annan play Bobby Cratchit. My other dear friend Meg Taylor Roth played my Scrooge. I played Marley, and Fezziwig as well, because Dickens was such an incredible writer and artist that his characters and their crises and pain and suffering aren't necessarily representative of gender. It could truly be anyone. So, sort of playing with gender on stage with these roles was able to show the depth and truthfulness behind Dickens' characters. As a director, and in terms of staging elements, I would definitely say I'm a minimalist. I used minimal props in my productions and costumes. We would just use really accessories over stage blacks. I wanted the audience to almost feel like they were in a snow globe. So I told my actors, just pretend that you're in a snow globe. So with every tip of the globe, the scene would change, and the audience would actually watch the changes right in front of them. So instead of having set changes within blackouts, I would have actors moving furniture or changing a costume right on stage in character. I think an amazing example of this is the phenomenal Bob Macau, who played my narrator. Bob also had other minor roles that he would transform into as he was delivering his narrator monologues, whether it was simply putting on a jacket or taking off his top hat. And quite frankly, that is so hard as an actor, but Bob nailed it every time. It was beautiful to watch. I honestly don't know if I could pick a favorite scene in A Christmas Carol. I really love them all, but I think that the Scrooge and Belle breakup scene always gets me. That is truly one of the most heartbreaking scenes in A Christmas Carol, and every time I watch it, no matter who is acting, I am always thoroughly moved during that scene. I think my favorite scene to perform would have to be the Marley and Scrooge scene that I did last year in 2019. I really did love playing Ghost of Christmas Past, but my dearest friend Meg Taylor Roth played Scrooge for me, and it was such a beautiful experience to share the stage with her and bring our friendship to the table and play off of our natural chemistry. And Marley in general is just such a dream role to play. So I loved playing Marley, and I looked forward to going out there with Meg every performance. My favorite part about directing this production was honestly writing the script. It forced me to go back to the text that I hadn't read in ages, and I read it again with fresh eyes. And Dickens is such an incredible writer, in my opinion. It was really enjoyable to pick elements of his writing and create a monologue or a dialogue using his language. With that said, however, that was also definitely the most challenging part of directing that production. I think one of the funniest moments that I can recall was actually on stage, and it was an accident. One of our actors had gotten off of a bench, and there was a tiered tray of Christmas cookies on the bench that I had placed playing Freddie that year. And the actor got up, and the bench shook, and the cookies fell off of the bench and went everywhere, all over the stage. And my favorite part was watching the great Tom Chase come out in character as Bob Cratchit in the next scene in Scrooge's office and wildly try to pick up these cookies and clean up these cookies off the stage in character. And it was seamless and it was wonderful. And I was peeking through the cracks of the door, watching Tom on his hands and knees pick up these crumbs. And I have to say that was probably one of the funniest things I have seen in a production. There are so many beautiful messages in The Christmas Carol, but one in particular is actually a quote from another Dickens story, but rings true with A Christmas Carol. And I wrote it into the Marley scene with Scrooge. And the quote is, "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burdens of another." And I think Scrooge, with all of his pain and heartbreak within his past, felt as though he had nothing to offer the world because the world had offered nothing to him. And I think that a lot of times people don't truly see their own worth and what they can contribute because we so often look at things monetarily or materialistically. And a lot of times that's not what people need. People need kindness and patience and love. And that message is what I always take from A Christmas Carol. The best thing about working with Artist Exchange is the people. Hands down, no contest, 100% the people. I have found a family in this organization that I wouldn't trade for the world, and I look forward to every moment spent with them on stage and off stage. And what Artist Exchange does throughout the entire calendar year, not just the holidays, is beautiful and inclusive and one of a kind. I'm eternally grateful to have been embraced by Artist Exchange the way that I have, and I love them. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you all the happiest of holidays in this crazy time that we are living in. And I miss seeing you all, and I miss sharing the stage with you. And I hope that we can be back at it soon. So, happy holidays. Mwah.